Well, welcome back to lesson 2 of the winter pastel courses, 3 workshops on Facebook Emma Hunt Art. Decided this time around we'll go for something a little bit more basic so that everybody can have a go. It's an all-inclusive kind of one. We've been given a beautiful picture by Alan Graham, which we're using today, and that is of Blea Tarn. It's very much just a silhouette like some of the ones that I did last year. Some of you will recognise the style. So I'll just do my old usual high-tech thing and bring my phone into the camera view. So this is what we're going to be doing, and this is by Alan Graham, so if you give him some love that'd be great. So we're going to be doing a Milky Way. We'll just quickly talk about what you need for equipment. You need some untextured paper. It needs to be tissue paper that has no, like for example, if I use this will leave them marks on the paper when we use it to press down later on, which I'll explain as we go along. I'm using a mixture of Canson and Unison pastels. I've got a little varied palette here. It's not a lot of colours, not a lot in it really. It's just mainly navy blues and greys and a few pinks, and of course the blacks. And I also recommend that we use inscribed pastels. Get 48 half pastels, along with Canson Me10 paper, which I'm using today. If you have access to a pencil, like a charcoal pencil, something like this, that's great. If not, just use a sharp edge of your paper, of your pastel. Don't be too worried. It's just that we've got a little silhouette to put in along here, which we'll fill in a bit. So I'm just going to go and pull the picture up on my phone. I've got Mandy with me today, so we've got some company to go through with it, and so we'll see how we get on. Make sure you've got some tissue handy, again, to keep your fingers clean, and we can get cracking. Oh, look at that spider! It's a big art appreciation spider, and we're going into the winter months now. It's not flies anymore, it's spiders. Right, so the main thing is, if you're looking at the picture, it's quite, there isn't really any black at the top, it's just navy blue. So I'm going to go in with my darkest navy blue, so if you can find your darkest navy blue. And all we're going to do is we're just going to create down to about, I'm just going to put a line about here, very, very softly. You don't need to do it, but this is roughly where you need to stop. But I'm just going to go in with the navy blue, and with the side of it, I'm just going to drag it across. And your pastels will go on in various strengths depending on the type of pastel you use. Some of them are more creamy, some of them are not. So I'm just looking at this picture that we've got here, and I'm probably going to bring it quite far down, about a third of the page I think. This is a nice quick one to work on today, and you're going to find so much joy out of this because it's just so easy to do. And then I just use the flat 3 fingers as we've always done, and then in a circular motion just start pushing that colour in. We want to get rid of the idea that the paper colour is underneath. As you can see, this pastel's a bit not too good at coverage, but quite an intense colour, so I'll need to continue to apply a bit more just until we can't see. And if you get any marks, just go across the way like so, just to smooth out any lines. I just need a little more of this navy blue, I think. So I'm just going to apply a little more at the top. And then don't be afraid of pulling down your navy blue a little, because we want gradients of colour. We want to start dark at the top and lighter as we go down. So, circular motion until we've got rid of this paper. So it's nice and clear. There we go. So it's quite dark blue. I mean, don't worry too much about your blues. It's about the colours. It's more about the tones. It's more about the change in colour from one to another. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. But I've got a nice lighter blue. This is more of a midnight royal blue kind of thing. And I'm going to go over the top of that with this, just so that I can create that nice gradient, but we don't have a linear gradient, so I'm going to bring it down now on the diagonal slightly, because looking at the photograph we kind of have a bit of a haze here, so we're going to have lighter colours, darker colours moving down on the diagonal now. So I'm just going to apply that on that way. That's it. And then with clean fingers, so I've just got my kitchen roll. And not that it matters too much at this point because the colours aren't that different, but from the bottom up now I'm going to do that circular motion again. And just push that colour way into the darker colour. And now we're starting to get, I hope you can see it in this light because it's very dark in here today, a nice sort of little graduated gradient from that colour to the next. And I'll say we're going to come down to roughly about here, but I think what we might do actually is we might firm that up. I think actually we'll go for a bigger sky. So I'm going to just basically with my pencil, just going to map in a couple of shapes. It doesn't have to be accurate, but that just gives me a guideline where I'm going with it. And again, just push that blue down and beyond its own line, because it's all about creating that perfect blend of dark into lighter colours. There we go. So then we've got some other blues. We've got a bright blue here, which we can go over the top with. We've also got quite a lot of sort of aubergine colours within it as well. So bearing in mind that's no longer my line, I'm just going to do a nice swoop up and into that colour again with a brighter blue. I might darken it a little bit more, but I'd rather be too bright than too dark because it's much easier to work it out afterwards. So I'm going right over into the blue a little. So we've got a couple of inches from the top, half an inch from the bottom into that darker blue. And this time round I'm just going to swoop. I'm just going to swoop it. Circular but swoopy. There we go. And just push that colour. And we want to remove any signs of lines. You see now how I've very quickly got that blue to blend into the darker blue. And this blue is quite a sticky one, so it's going to need a little bit more application for my liking, but I'm going to apply some more. But the idea is that we just want to create a seamless blend of colour. We don't want to see any lines of one colour going into the next. We just want to see these beautiful colours blending together. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm sorry about Molly, she's very vocal. she's a calico. It's a prerogative to be a naughty cat and to be noisy, isn't it, Molly? But as you can see, I've got some little bits of like it's just the pastel, but there are some what looks like lumpy bits on there, but I'm not worrying about that because we're going to be applying colour over colour. I'm just going to bring it down a little further, just until I feel there's enough of that there to bring it down into that line, and then circular movement, get rid of any lumpy bumps from the pastel, and it's beautiful glowing colours now, and it's just so quick to work with. Me and Mandy get through this really, really quickly. There we go. And as I get further down here, I'm going to go in with a bit of grey, just because I'm going to apply some aubergine colours over it, and I just want a bit of a darker colour underneath. And we do seem to have some hazy areas, so where I've done them two swoops, I'm now going to fill in with the grey, and I'm going to go in and lighten it and mess around with it a little bit. So we do have these two swoops in here of separate colour, so we just do the middle grey, again circular motion, and I'm just side to side swooping that up, because it is quite noticeable. It's not like a perfect blend like the other colours. I just want to create, I mean, look how nice that looks. It looks like clouds are there already. And I'm going to go in with a pinky aubergine, well, maybe even yeah, we're going for more of a pinky colour over the top of this, just to create that haze that's happening here. And just very, very light amounts. We've got a lighter area here. And I'm just judging looking at the photograph really, but it doesn't have to be perfect because the effect is just going to be really nice. So there we go. Again, just in that direction. These look like clouds. They're probably more to do with the astrophotography than anything else. But it's very, very effective, isn't it? And then further down here, I've got it's a very light white blue. And I'm just going to apply some of this haziness in amongst it again. Over the top, I'm just wiggling over the top of what I've already applied. And then we can have a look at the Milky Way in a minute and start changing what we're doing there, because we can I'm just basically doing a slight up and down wiggle there, just to create that haze. You see how I'm doing that? It's just a slight wiggle up and down, following that direction. And look at that beautiful sky. I mean, it's madness, isn't it? It's so easy to do. It's so much fun. And you get an instant result from it. And it is, I'm just filling in a little bit more blue in there. But I mean, already that is a beautiful sky. And we've really done nothing apart from push some colour around to create this effect. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this Milky Way shape. I've gone quite bright. It's not as bright as this on the painting. If you wanted to go darker, you can. But I quite like this bright colour. Because it's up to you. You can have whatever colours you like, really. So yeah, we'll just make sure that we're still in line, because this thing tends to move around a little bit. Bring that down a little further. There we go. So you can see that's quite... It's not a very good picture because of the light, I'm afraid, but it is very effective. I'll just bring that forward a little bit more. There we go. And then I'm just going to think about... oh, excuse me, I'll be right back. Welcome back. Sorry, it was just a phone call. In these times, can't really miss a phone call. But anyway, so this is how far we've got. I'm just looking at the picture again, and I'm going to bring in now a darker area for the inside of the Milky Way. So I'm going to go back to my darkest navy blue, and then I'm just going to roughly start scratching on its side, darkening this area where the Milky Way is going to live. And if you need to go darker because you're going to lighter on top, then you can by all means use black. The Milky Way is a funny shape, it's a bit of a wiggle, but it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to surround it with these beautiful stars that are in the picture. So this time I'm just going to push down, and depending on whether or not I think that's going to be dark enough, it might need to be a bit darker in the middle. And I'm just tap, 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 and just allow that softer, lighter colour there to be absorbed again. We might as well really go for something quite dramatic. So I've got a black now, and it won't make it black, but what it will do is just darken it a little further. And again, just in the centre, I'm just wiggling, not all the way down, just a little way down with the black, because we want the inside of that Milky Way to look nice and dramatic. And then we're just going to wiggle that in, just side to side like that. So we've got the rough shape of the Milky Way, which is going to be the fun part for everybody, because like the way to do this is so easy. But if you've never done these lessons before, I would recommend again using textureless tissue paper, because we're going to create lots and lots of dust on purpose to create this Milky Way effect. And obviously if you haven't used pastels before, you do need to use a fixative. The fixative basically helps stabilise the pastels. It doesn't stop them from being dusty still or dropping off, but it does help in respect to getting it into a frame. You will lose a lot of stars because you'll put a fixative on. I mean, if you don't have fixative at home, you can use hairspray. I use a compressor and an air gun because I just find that's better for me. It just leaves less spattering on the work, but it's vital that you have some fixative. And when you finish this, if you want to be sure that you've got most of the dust fixed and in no worries at all, just gone in with the grey again, just the very base here, just to lighten that up. If you find that you just tip it up on its side, give it a good thwack, that'll get the rest of the dust off, and as long as you don't knock it around once it's in a frame, it'll be perfectly safe. So I think the next thing we're going to do now is concentrate on this tree line down here. So I've got a black. I'm just going to use the side. It doesn't have to be perfect for you guys because it's just a bit of fun. But we do have a bit of a swoop down of a tree line there. So I'm just going to fill in this area just to match what's going on really. So my trees are going to come up and above a little bit. So I'm just going to put some little zigzags in, which I'm going to put in properly in a bit, just to give me some idea of these trees. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they're just basically upside down V's while I work out where I'm at with it, and then coming swooping down into this little area down here and then back up. So that's roughly my shape, and then I'm going to smarten that up a bit once we've filled this in. So then with the side of the pastel, it's nice and black. If you've got some different coloured blacks, give them a go. I mean, it doesn't have to be an absolute black, a midnight black like this one. I mean, you know, we have some very nice different blacks for pastels. So I'm just going to now, this pastel is quite waxy actually, it's a new one. So you might find your black goes on a lot easier than mine. I'm going to keep to them little highlights as much as I can without worrying too much about that line. But I want to fill this in with black. I might see if I've got rid of black actually, this is a bit rubbish. Let's try this one. And again, try and avoid the tips of your trees as much as possible. You don't need to blend them. You do need, however, a bit of an edge, but just ignore anything that's spiky because you don't want to have a muddy tree top into the sky. You want to keep them as sharp as possible. And then just set about filling in with some pressure, circular motions if you like I normally do. And just fill this black area in with black so we don't see paper anymore. But it's already looking really, really effective, isn't it? Nice and relaxing and so easy to do. So now you can use the corner of your pastel to create this silhouette and make it a little bit more detailed than that is at the moment. I'm not worrying too much about the edges because I'm going to go in and over that. But I'm just trying to keep the black and the colours of the sky totally separate. Don't blend them at all if you can help it. There we go. I mean, it could be really interesting and put like a little bit of water in the front, you know, and use a little bit of poetic license really, which would be nice. I might have to think about that actually. So I'm going to use my black pencil now, and I'm just going to work out these tree lines and everything to a little bit more effect, a little sharper. And again, I don't need to actually sit and blend these lines. I'm just going to use the black. You've got some little more obvious little trees that are living on their own here. And I'm just creating just little swoops and little swishes, just like so. It doesn't have to be a perfect tree, but it just needs to have that shape. Hello, Molly. So there we go, just a little bit of a defining definition of a tree. That will do, I think. And then I'm going to follow this line, a nice harsh line here, and make sure I've got a nice strong line. And just add some little bits and bobs. It doesn't have to be exactly like me. Just looking at the picture where we've got little changes in the terrain there along this horizon line. And come down here, another little bobbly one. And then when we finally come down to here, we have quite a steep swoop. So I hope you can see it with my left-handedness isn't in the way. A nice steep swoop there. Do whatever shape you like, coming down into that lower part of the valley or whatever that is there. And you're just putting in just indications of this silhouette. It doesn't have to be perfect. Try and, if your black's slightly different to the black on your pencil or whatever, slightly different to the black that you blended in, again, stay away from your edges, don't blend them, just bring them together. We've got a little tree here, so we can just put a line in like so, just remembering that a fern starts thin and then gets thicker as it's going down. And we have another little one here living on its own. But these can like basically be any which way you like them, to be honest. And then obviously we've got a little bit more going on here, but some of the trees are bunched up, so we're not seeing an awful lot of information from it. We might have a little bit of fern sticking out, just to give it a little bit more believability. And back up to this one again, pointy at the top. Just build it out. I just want the indication of this silhouette. Another one coming up next to it there, which I've put in. And just basically have a think about the shape of your trees. Remember, they're just like upside down triangles really. And you know, you could do them as upside down triangles, it would still look perfectly acceptable. It really is a very basic shape. So we've got one next up here. Remember the ferns growing upwards like so. And we have some bigger, thicker bits up here. Just have a good think about it. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, so don't panic if it doesn't. You just want this idea of the silhouette of these trees living out here. So on that one I'm just going to put some little spikes underneath. Pencil sharp. There you go. I'll give you a blow because you've got way too much dust on it. So just give it. It doesn't matter. Just give it a blow. That's it. Then you can see where you need to blend it a little bit more. Like yeah, Mandy here. She's just sharpening the pencil. Do remember to keep as much of the dust off as you can as you're going along. The dust hides what you work if you can't keep it relatively dust free. But look how effective that is, and we're nearly there already, funny enough, you know. There isn't an awful lot more to do with this. I quite like that sky. I don't think we need to change much about that. You could add a few little extras, just the wiggle of the pastel, just to create this highlighted area. You could do that if you want, and then just tap it back. And just add little extra bits and bobs. But actually I really like the way that's turned out. But you can mess around with it and play around with it as much as you like. I mean, we could put another big old cloud up here if you wanted to. The next thing I'm going to concentrate on is we want to make our lives easier if we can. So the side of this Milky Way here is quite bright. So I'm going to go back to this bright blue that we had before. And again, I'm just going to basically, I'm not going to do any blending. I'm just tickling the pastel in and over that area of where the Milky Way is. So just the side of it, I'm just brushing it, and I'm not doing any blending, because that nice texture that it's giving, once we put stars on and everything, it will make complete and utter sense. Coming further down, it gets lighter naturally, so this time I'm going to go over with the grey, just the slightest of wiggles, looking at the shape of the Milky Way as it settles down here in the lower hills. So that comes all the way, and it's just a little dab and wiggle, that's all it is. But we're just going to put in the hints of this brightness that's around the Milky Way. We have another area just up here, barely touching the pastel paper at this point, just little wiggles. And then when we lay down the stars, this all lays down the foundation, very, very slight here. Very slight colour change, but there is some. And at that point I'm just going to dab that a little bit. Oh, dirty fingers. Just going to dab that back just a little, and that's it really. I'm going to allow that texture to more or less stay put, because that helps when we come to the stars. So I hope you're feeling quite destructive today, because we absolutely love this part. We've done this so many times before. First thing I'm going to do actually, I wish I knew my astronomy better. I'm just going to put a little tiny circle here, because whatever that star is there, it's so bright in the sky, it's light in the sky around it. So I put a circle, and then outwards in a circular motion created that light. And then what the heck, we'll give it, I've got a light blue here, I'm giving it a nice big star. But that's just the start of our stars, the rest of it is going to be a lot of fun. There, look at that star glowing. It's just a really nice effect. Again, you know, it looks like it's lighting the sky up for us. I mean, up here, for example, got a little bit of lightness in the sky. Just look at the sky and the picture. There's little areas that are more lit up than others, so we can just emulate that. We even have a bit more haze here. So I'm just a wiggle and a push. I'm just not really wanting, it's just a hint of it, but look at that now already. Now this is where we have a lot of fun. We can take our really, really bright blues, and we can start making this Milky Way look really, really beautiful. First of all, I think what we'll do is we'll just show you how we do stars traditionally. It's just so easy, just a piece of white. You can use the blues because there's blues and whites and everything. And I'm just dotting around some of the bigger stars. Now, if you don't have the courage to, because ultimately you're going to have to basically put tissue paper over your pastels and then try your best not to dislodge the pastel that you've just created. So if you don't have much confidence in being able to do that part of this, then obviously I would just do dots of stars. You know, you can take the pastel, this one's quite dusty, and I'm just basically giving it a little wiggle and allowing dust to fall off it. And that is the basis of my stars. But ultimately we get very, 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 very destructive and we have a lot of fun. So just dot around with your pastel here and there. Now that would in essence be enough. But we want to go crazy with stars around this Milky Way area. So I've done some white dots and we've got some blue dots that we could do. So I could go in with this really bright blue and we can do some dots with that as well. And then what we need to just look at is the colours around the Milky Way themselves, and this is where we get nicely destructive. Mandy's done this with me before, haven't you, love?
Yeah.
And it is so nice to just basically go a bit nuts with it. I mean, it already looks really, really effective, and it looks like a Milky Way, and I'm really happy with it. I hope you were really enjoying watching it. I'm sorry we haven't got great light. Unfortunately, we haven't. But we can go in with different colours of blues and greys with the dots. But the most satisfying bit, I'm going to take this very, let's have a look actually, I think we're going to go for lilac. I think we'll go for lilac initially. So I've got a light lilac, and this is where we go a bit crazy with it. I'm just going to use the inside of my nail and break off a small portion of that lilac, as you can see. And then it's just a case of breaking that up between your fingers, like so, and this is when it gets really dusty and messy. And then I just tap, tap, tap and release my fingers around the dust. And we can go we can sprinkle, and we can do all sorts of things with it. There's lots of different colours within the Milky Way on this picture, but I'm just sprinkling it. And I'm going to go a bit crazy with adding lots of pastel dust. I mean, you can buy pan pastel, which is pure dust, but to be honest with you, I prefer the fact that this comes out in blobs and bits, because obviously stars aren't just little pieces of dust, they're all different sizes. And I'm just basically following this tight line that I've put in already with the lilacs. I'm just going to use the side there to really emphasise that. And then I'm going to go in with a bit of white, because it's quite a bright colour lower down. The same thing, and I'll just clear that lilac off my hands. It's amazing how quick it comes to something, isn't it? Because we've been doing this for such a short space of time, and already it looks really nice. So again, I'm going to now take some white, quite a bit of it actually, and I just crumble that up again in my hands. I don't want it to be too uniform and too dusty, so I'm quite happy with that. And just sprinkle and dab, sprinkle and dab. Just keeping an eye on the original photograph, like where is the densest part of the stars. There's quite a lot of lighter colours down here because it's getting more towards the horizon. So I'm just going to dab, dab and sprinkle. If you want more in the sky, just give your fingers a flick, like so. And just have a good think about the different bits of the Milky Way that's more highlighted than others. And this is how I've done many of my Milky Ways. And it's just nice and effective. Again, up here, a little bit more. Might go in with less of the white, because it's definitely a bit darker as you go further up, more intense as you come further down. But you could do your Milky Way in whatever colours you like. That's the beauty of it. You know, it will still look impressive even if you use strings. But that's more or less there, isn't it, I think? Yeah. I don't think I'm going to overdo it today. I might just put some extra little splodges just closer to this edge here, just to highlight that bottom edge of the Milky Way. And then if you were a bit worried about your dust, you can give it a slight tap with your fingers, but bearing in mind you're going to lose some of the nice bits of definition that you've just created. But do you, yeah, I'm finished now. So yeah. So that's my washing machine finished. That was rude of me. I didn't even realise it was on. Right, I can go back in with some more blues if I wanted to. I've got a brighter blue here which I quite like, which I'm going to crumble up and just add a little bit of brightness to it. And it's just so cool because you just get all these different things going on. I think that'll do me with that blue. I don't want too much. And then a bit of a hazy area up here. Maybe just put an extra couple up there if you can see that, I don't know. And I think that we're done. Now's the tricky bit, and I've actually told everybody not to get textureless tissue paper, and do you know what, I don't even know if I've got any. Yeah, I have. Just bear with me a sec. Just check that's still recording. That seems to have gone a bit out of focus, I'm afraid. Oh man. Right, hopefully that's a bit better, so you can see that much better than before. As you can see, it's just been a case of sprinkling and dotting around with the whites and the different colours. Really, really nice effect. And I'm just going to get some tissue paper if the cat will get out of my way. Come on. Just realised that I might have been filming a little bit off because this light's gone. It might not be any good. Right, so I've got some normal soft ply tissue here, which doesn't have any texture on it. Please don't have any texture, barely any. So just pull that out. Right. Give you a couple of bits. Thank you. Right, so this is a really, really challenging bit because it looks lovely. I think you'll agree. It's a really nice, quick thing to do and to make up. But this is always the tricky bit to teach. As I say, you could always go around with your fingers and press down very softly on the denser areas, but as you can see, you're losing some of the sharpness. But you're going to lose a lot of these stars anyway. So by all means, if you feel happier, just give them a dab. But not too much because you'll end up with finger marks everywhere. So it's just a very, very light touch. And you can set down some of your pastels. Just be wary that you're carrying pastels around on your fingers all the time. So you're leaving little blodgy marks everywhere. You see there? See how that's gone blodgy there? But I've done that on purpose. So we now have kind of just got to be wary with the finger marks, that's all. So we're just taking like a single sheet of tissue paper. And this is where you have to be brave. I've already got pastels on this one. But you need to lay it down flat as you can. Put your hand flat in the middle and try and straighten that out. You do not want to move this tissue around at all. Because if you start to flatten it and you're doing that, you're just going to push your pastel around. So if you imagine being a bit like a cat, padding, put as much weight as you can down onto your work. And do not dislodge your paper, otherwise it's ruined. But just pad down, and then this is the moment of truth, because I've done it before where I've messed it up. Here we go. Are we going to do it? Just peel it back like a bed cover. And it just helps, just put some of these down on hard onto the paper. You will lose a lot of these stars because you'll need to pick it up and give it a tap when after you've put your fixatives on, whatever it is that you might be using. But we are losing a lot of light. This is a beginner pastel workshop. I'm sorry we've lost some of the definition of the recording. It's got very dark very quickly here. I will put up a final photograph at the very beginning so you can see what it becomes, and then you've got something as reference. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. That's lovely, Andy. Oh, I know, but you can always, you know what I mean, you can always go back over that and like, if you try and use like the tip of your finger, because like I always end up putting big finger splodges on. But you know, this is something that you can work on again and again. And if you've got any questions, please don't forget to sign your work, everybody. I always say sign your work. So let's get Abby to do it as well. So please share your work with us. at Emma Hunt Art on Facebook. I'd love to see what it is that you guys have done and what you've created. And if you've got any questions, just give me a DM and I'll be able to answer them as soon as I can. I hope you've enjoyed it anyway. Take care everybody, stay safe. Bye now.